All righty. Welcome everyone to this space on this lovely Saturday. With that being said, we're going to jump right in. This is our last and final series for our tarot workshop. Thank you for all of the people that in attendees that have been in this space with us. You guys have been amazing, truly rock stars. In closing out opener, what I would like to for everyone to share, what is something or a practice that you're going to continue doing past this workshop? What was something that was truly eye-opening to you, something you didn't see before, and you plan on implementing into your regular practice? And I don't mind going first. Um, during I was very much so a newbie to this. And during the exercise, I'll go through the rest of my 5 cards later, but specifically, this card stuck out to me. And it just put perspective. I mentioned earlier, while before the meeting started, we were just having a little girls' chat, Emma, Leah, and I, in regards to like just things that were just groundbreaking over the last few weeks while this series was going on. And the Four of Cups for me is very symbolic of what was going and telling of my times. It's perspective. In this cup, in this card, you can sort of see the young woman sitting there, sort of like disturbed, and just down, just completely down on life. But if she changed her perspective, she would see that there's something on the horizon. So with that being said, whoop, there we go. Okay, with that being said, what is something that a practice that during this practice just completely changed for you? You plan on implementing in in your practice, or just something you would want to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think by looking at them, because I haven't done tarot that much. I've got cards and I've kind of done them for myself, but I haven't really gone to anybody and had them do like a layout, a spread, and tried to tell me what things are happening in the past and the present, future, and all that. I mean, I kind of can get an idea how to do a few the very simple things, but I think this has helped me see more the psychological part of it instead of the actual events happening. Like this event may be happening, but it may not be an actual event. It may be something that's just happening internally instead of external.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And so that's helped me a lot.
I like that a lot.
Really?
That's very deep.
So because I've looked at some of the cards since and I've thought, well, you can't always say an event's going to happen because like somebody like me, I've been stuck in my house. I haven't been meeting people or anything. And so you can't say, oh, I'm going to go out and meet new friends and all that, because that's not going to happen. So you have to kind of interpret it the way what's happening in that person's life. I mean, if you see pentacles and you see money, well, that's not going to work for me because I'm retired and I'm not working anywhere. And I'm not going to work anytime soon because of the pandemic. Even a part-time job I'm not going to do. So I've noticed that too with astrology and other things. I have to say, well, this doesn't pertain to me if I go to somebody. They'll say, oh, you're going to make lots of money. And I said, no, not now.
Ooh,
so you have to kind of find out what's like. If you have a client, you'd have to find out. You can't look at it and say, oh, that has coins, pentacles, it has to do with money, but that may not be even important to that person either. So you have to look at other factors besides external factors.
Deep, as Leah said, very deep. I want to jot that down.
Very deep. No, Venus is in Scorpio. That's my Venus.
Oh, it is. I was listening. Actually, I'm pretty up on the charts. I was actually listening to my zodiac this morning, and I was like, "Ooh, how is this affecting me?"
It went into Scorpio on the 10th. Yesterday.
Yep.
Something like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Margaret. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was
thank you.
That hit home for me, especially. I feel like something that's changed for me since this workshop, and I was sharing this earlier, I've been trusting myself a lot more when giving readings, and even if I'm doing them for myself, I haven't been immediately running to the book to get my interpretation. I've just been trusting myself to know what that card means based off of what it looks like and how I feel about it. And that's been really eye-opening for me.
That's so amazing, Leah. Thanks for
Awesome.
everyone sharing. This was so amazing for
Yes.
always being so open and willing to navigate my awkwardness with me. So again, thank you everyone for being in this space. We're going to proceed. So Leah?
Let's do it. For the final time for this workshop, I want to tell everyone about Unity and Healing. So Unity and Healing's mission is to curate an uplifting and nurturing community for BIPOC folks to heal from cultural, historical, and present day traumas. Through sharing practices and resources, we will build a network of healers, partners, members, and allies who are physically, mentally, and spiritually well. We are here to be well. And I think we've really seen in these past 3 workshops how tarot can help us be well, especially with the homework that we were given by our lovely healer. Oh, wait, just kidding. Before I talk about our wonderful healer, I have to talk about something that she's doing tomorrow with Unity and Healing, our wonderful plant healing workshop, where she will teach us how to identify and gather plants and herbs from local locations, where we will be able to use herbs to help heal our bodies. I feel like you have to start internally. And sometimes that means the physical body. We got to take care of that as well. So if you have time tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, please come join us. And now I will introduce our wonderful healer, Emma, who has been with us for these past 3 weeks. We've been learning so much from her, and I can't wait for today's session. Please take it away, Emma.
Thank you. And thank you so much for organising this, guys. It's been a really good experience, and I think all the participants have been fantastic. I learned so much from doing these as well, because, as you know, it sounds corny and cliched, but nobody ever stops learning. You know, there's always something new, and that, you know, the tarot has many possibilities. So thank you, everyone. So we're going to kick off with the homework. Now, I would like everybody to share, but I'll go first because, you know, I would never ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And it can be awkward. I am naturally an introvert, believe it or not. When I speak publicly, it's almost like I go into a mode. You know how like Beyonce has Sasha Fierce? It's almost like that you take on, because normally I'm like the person who will sit muted and will never contribute. But there's something there's something you get from sharing your experiences, if only that you see they are not just your own. You know, so often we think of ourselves as being so weird. Oh my God, I'm not going to share this. I'm so weird and awkward and nobody will understand. But everybody is weird and awkward. So that is like one of the things we get from sharing. So the homework was to go through the cards and to take 5 cards that sum you up, and then to explore them in depth. So I will go first. So the first card I took was the 4 of Cups. So in my deck, it looks like this. And I took that because sometimes I think I'm too defensive. And part of that defense, I feel, comes from always feeling like I have to defend myself. Like, I guess as women, as a woman of colour, as a woman, as a working class woman, all too often I've been in situations where you are looked down upon because of any one of those factors, you know, sometimes because of all of those factors combined. And so even from being a child in like at school and stuff like that, so, you know, you almost develop a chip on your shoulder because you're so used to having to be defensive, it becomes a kind of clutch. And sometimes, you know, that's useful to be able to defend ourselves, but when, you know, it can go too far. And so sometimes that's me. And partly it's because I care so much as well. you know. And because I care too much, but I'm also defensive, I don't let people in easily. It's you know, it can be quite hard. So that's that one for me. See what I mean? So earlier I was saying how for me, when I do this exercise, I'm normally very critical of myself. And that just kind of highlights that. But it's important that we notice like those over critical or when we're just being unfair to ourselves. So this exercise is good for that as well. I also chose the Eight of Pentacles because at the moment, I feel pretty in control of the different areas of my life. I feel like in my day job, things are going well. In my writing career, things are going well. In my magical life, things are going well. I feel like everything's coming together. Don't get me wrong, there's still bumps in the road, but, you know, I generally have a good grip on things. The next card I chose was the Eight of Swords. And I chose that one because I guess I'm kind of striving to grow and to make changes and not to be held hostage by the comfort of, you know, what I'm used to. I want to grow, and sometimes that growth can be uncomfortable. So that's that one. And I then chose the Seven of Cups. And again, that kind of just reflects how things seem to be going well, but then there's a downside to that. And the downside is then you become nervous about having to take risks because things seem to be going well. And that's kind of, I can get hung up on that as well, you know. And then I chose the Six of Wands. And that one was just to remind me that sometimes things don't come easily, however, they are worth it in the end. So they were my 5 cards. So who would like to go next and share?
Okay, I'll go. That's a hard act to follow, but I will go. Okay. Whew. So I feel like I'm going to start off with my 4 of Cups as well. Because this is very much so me. I started off with this earlier. I just looked through the deck and I was like, what cards do I connect with? And I connect with this immediately just because in this deck, she's so disappointed and focused on the lack of whatever's going on with these cups. It could be just not the cups that she expected, not the amount, but she doesn't see one coming in through, you know, like, so with that being said, it's just, I see it as like being too focused on the negatives to not see the actual positives that are trying to like manifest in my experience, which is something that happens all the time, especially lately with like my personal, well, not necessarily personal life. It's just like my job. I want to quit so bad. And that's another conversation, y'all. I really know. But it's just like I get so caught up in just hating that I don't see all the greatness that's still sliding in, you know, like, it's right here. Look up, you know, like look up. So that's why I chose the 4 of Cups. I also, the next card I chose was the Sun. Just because of, so I love the joyfulness in the little girl, and carrying the flag was still very symbolic of like a new day and celebrating this new, the crops look just fresh and everything symbolic that the sun symbolizes to me. And the sun is very important. So my name is Roshana. It means light of the sky. And it's always a reminder, like there's the day, there's a new day, you know, and I try as hard as stuff is, I live by this. So it's just a reminder to self in my God-given name, like you're literally lighting up so much. Your nourishment for yourself, for others, the world, you're replenishing. So I chose the sun. So strength was one of the first cards that I pulled. Again, very symbolic of what was going on in the most recent weeks. I really enjoyed just the artistry on this card. The symbolism behind the rose crown and belt, and then the lion is also wearing one around. It's just fruitful still again, and courageous yet kind and gentle but necessary. And in the deck, the author or the it described the book as the illustrator described the book the intentions behind the imagery on this card being like they're aware that they're going on to this, you have to be strong but be courageous and kind through all of that and still gentle. So I was like, something I got to remind myself. It's going to be hard, but there's still beauty in all of the things that require strength. So try to see that beauty out, even if you have to embellish it, you know? So I like that one. That was cute. Seven of Wands. I feel like this is very symbolic. It goes to like not trusting. The importance of her being sort of elevated up and fighting beneath her. I also thought that was very symbolic. It's just like, one, I could ignore what's beneath me and not fight it. Very symbolic of the times. And two, still very much show the stubborn is what I'm seeing here. Like my stubborn attributes. Like I'm fighting something that's beneath me anyway. So why? Yes, it's a whole bunch of trash down there. It's garbage. But why am I doing that? I'm already above it. And the stubbornness in me still keeps me in some of my poor habits. So being real, nitty gritty there. Some of my not so proud attributes. And then I pulled this card over the last few weeks, which was the 10 of Pentacles. And it's just finalizing having life sort of being in a balanced place, like the completion of life coming together. And this was symbolic in the sense that how I mentioned, I get so caught up on all the stuff that life has it's not, you know how people say there's no such thing as evil or bad will. It's just neutral. And life is sort of like that. There's just a neutral balance. And I get so caught up on all the things that are deemed negative that I lose sight of this actually coming into place for me. So that's why this card was chosen. And that was my 5 cards, guys. So that was me.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Anybody? I mean, anybody. Were we supposed to do cards that are something that's happening now or that's happened anytime to us?
It doesn't really matter. Anything that you feel it was important. Yeah. There's no hard definitions on how you want to.
I forgot about that. And then I looked at these. I said, well, this is not me now, but this has been me.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that you feel is important to you that's impacted you. Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, I don't know if I'm ready or not. Let's see.
Well, I can hop on while you get ready. This was an interesting activity. This was some interesting homework, but I'm really happy with the cards that I landed on. So I started with the 2 of Pentacles, and I chose this card because she's balancing a lot of things while also being in the ocean that is like can push her over and just like make her drop the pentacles, but instead she's managing it. And she's doing it with grace and beauty. So I feel like that is something that I want to be, or like I feel like I am. I feel like I don't give myself enough credit. I it's what I am. Then the next card I chose is the Star. And I chose this one because there's beauty in the darkness, and there's beauty in embracing your shadow self and your darkest self, and just accepting that those things are a part of you and they're not gonna go away. So I really like that card. I usually struggle with the Star because I'm like, darkness, oh no, but embracing it. Then 9 of Wands. I feel like this one, for me, it represents the journey that I'm on, that it's long and it's got a lot of struggles, but I have, and like you can see here, she has her support wands. I have my support system, and I'm divinely guided by, I'm just divinely guided. And I feel like that is what this card represents. The Four of Wands, for me, like, it looks like in this picture that she's lost a battle, but to me, it represents winning a hard battle, winning something that you didn't think that you were going to be able to do, but you did it, you overcame, you survived. And I think that this is kind of a celebration of that. Well, not exactly a celebration, but an acknowledgement of a job well done. And then finally, Six of Pentacles, abundance, drinking in your harvest, and then sharing it with people who need it. And that is something that I like to do. I want to be abundant and have a lot of things so that I can then share them with the people that need them.
Okay, I'll go. I just added one a minute ago because I thought, well, this looks kind of like me. This is funny because you had Four of Swords. Who had four? You had Four Swords? Okay. Okay. Well, the meaning is totally different. And the reason that it's so different, I mean, you have different card decks. The people that create them can have totally different meanings. It's just however they want to convey it. So what I've done today, I mean, this week, is I like had 3 decks, and I would take one card and look at 3 versions of it. And sometimes they were close, and sometimes they were so different. And so this is, so you could see, you can hear me okay? Okay, because I can't, okay. As you can see, to me, this is neither positive nor, it's kind of neutral to me. This is not a person to me. This is a sarcophagus. This is the tomb in like a cathedral. See the stained glass? And that's like a tomb. I don't think that's the person. I think that's an actual person, I mean, a tomb or sarcophagus, what do you want to call it? And so to me, that's kind of like during the pandemic, this is the way I feel some of the time. Like I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything. So I'm just like standing still, waiting for something to happen. And this is kind of like well, this could be called kind of like a place of just no action. Like just kind of, to me, it could be kind of solitude or introspection, going within, or you know, you're at a crossroads maybe, and you kind of just, or you've been through a crisis and now you need to kind of go within and calm down, get out of the crisis. So maybe this is a way of figuring out what you're going to do next in life. So you go within and try to figure out what's next in your plan of action. Okay, and then this is, this is the 5 of Pentacles. And I'll use this version first because this is the Rider-Waite version. And this has a more negative picture than some of the others, but it shows a lot more detail than some of them. And which kind of conveys more the meaning that maybe it meant. This is 2 people that are out in the cold. They look like they're poor because of the way they're dressed, because they don't have very much on. And one of them looks disabled. He's like having to use crutches to walk. And to me, this represents they're not having any support. No one wants to help them. They're just kind of out there in the cold, left. It's like somebody abandoned them. They've been abandoned. It's like feeling like they're outsiders. Nobody cares about them. This could be like people that are excluded from a group for whatever reason, excluded from society, outcast, abandoned. So feelings of abandonment or being outcast, and maybe betrayal. And I've felt this before in the past. I don't necessarily feel this way before, But in my job and stuff, I've had people that kind of gang up on me, leave me out of the loop, make me feel like I'm strange, different, and don't want to include me in their activities. And so you feel it really weird, you know, you feel like maybe you're an outsider and you don't, and sometimes, and you know, you kind of like resent them for doing that to you. So, but they're not all that negative. The cards like, I had another card and it didn't look that, I mean, you could tell it's like outsider looking in. He's up here and she's looking inward to the turtle, but like, it's like you're in a different, you're looking at something from a different perspective. When you're outside the situation and that the people inside it, they can't see what they're doing to you. I think at some point they don't really see it, the truth. And maybe you're trying to see the truth for, you know, what's happening to you. But let's see, what's another one? This is taking a long time. Oh, I like this
Don't
one.
worry about that. Don't worry about how long it's taken at all. It's really interesting.
I gotta stop myself from talking too much. I'm sorry. I'm a person that doesn't talk at all, or I talk too much. So this is the 8 of Cups. And to me, this looks like a person who is leaving all these cups behind. To me, that represents the world that is familiar to him, but he wants to leave it behind so he can go, he wants a change. Could be a he or she or an animal. Wants a change. Let me show you this one. This one, you can see he's not looking back. He's looking forward. Even though it's going to be a hard journey. He had to cross a river with an alligator. How close to it? I don't know if I can expand it or not. And he has to go up the mountains. The mountains are steep. It's at night, so it's going to be hard for him to see going up the mountains. But he's ready because he has his staff to hold him, to help him get up the mountains. And he's not looking back at where he came from. And to me, this represents maybe a person that at one time they had it all, maybe. They had all the good life, their cups were full, and this was their life. And they had it held a lot of promise, but for some reason, it changed. Maybe it was too materialistic for them, or it didn't fulfill them in the right, maybe spiritually or something else. So they decide to go and look for a new life somewhere else. They're leaving this life behind. And let's see, I don't know how many I did. I think this is similar to this. Did I do? Okay. This is like the Rider-Waite, except it's the one with the animals. And this is like the 9 of Swords. Oh, here it is. It's like the woman, it's like grief, anguish, could be fear, despair. The swords seem to be suspended above her, and she looks like maybe that's representing something that could happen to her. They could fall down on her, but it doesn't mean that they will. It's just that maybe she's fearful that the swords could fall down on her. And she is like, this is like a nightmare. To me, it feels like she's waking up from a nightmare. And you know how you wake up from a nightmare and you feel so much, you can feel despair over the nightmare, a terrible nightmare. And to me, it's like she's grieving over something that has happened to her or something that she imagines is going to happen. So it could be all in her mind. So, but to me, it doesn't mean it has to be this way. But all of us need to recognize it's it's true. That's a reality that everybody has grief in their life. And so you just have, it's the thing is, how do you confront it? How do you deal with the grief and the anguish and fear? And she could be crying because, like I said, of what she thinks might happen in her mind instead of, so it may just be worse than than the reality of the situation. And how many more? One more?
Well, yeah, I say go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how many I did because I got an extra one this morning, so I don't know if I've done an extra one.
I go for it.
Yeah, totally.
I do too. Well, I'm trying to remember which ones I did. Oh, this is similar to the other one, but this is like a person looking out over the lands. This person is well dressed, so I think he's a person of influence. And he's got the globe in his hand, holding the globe. So it's like the earth, he's like surveying all the lands of his possessions. I think this is like he's standing on the balcony of his castle. And then he's looking out, and everything he sees, it's beautiful. It's there's beautiful mountains and rivers, and it's a beautiful day. And I think he's just like planning, what am I going to do? Am I going to go to these different lands? What am I going to see? I'm, planning to go on an adventure. What will happen? It's like anticipation of a long trip. So, I mean, and yeah, that's it. I guess that.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. So, John, we're essentially just going over the homework. Each of us went through our 5 cards that we all sort of did our own rendition of this essentially, but cards that one saw yourself in or saw some sort of symbolism that stuck out to you. Or Emma, you want to further explain it? What what the exercise was?
Well, the task was to take 5 cards that either sum you up or kind of, I don't know, that you connect with either because you've been through something similar or they just resonate with you, and just to explore them a little bit more in depth. That was the task.
Oh, John, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Oh, no. That makes sense. That makes sense.
You do have a very nice setup.
Very nice
like
setup,
you know,
so-
like take your time, sir. It seems like it's actually. I can imagine. So, do we want to sort of start the other part of the
Yes,
homework,
and then we
John?
can come back at the end.
Yeah, because John, you can do it all at the end, so it's fine. So
Yeah.
the other homework, Emma.
Oh. Bear with me because I do make notes, but I have a dog and the dog does actually eat my notebooks. So I'm piecing things together.
No worries. You're fine. So, and I have them too. I jot them down too.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. So the homework was to, here it is right here. Choose a card to sit with 10 minutes daily.
Yes.
Your manifestation candle or whatever ritualistics that you have. Gaze at it for 10 minutes and try and go into the 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 states. I can't read my hand. The trans state. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. How did everybody get on with that? What card did you choose? And just, you don't have to go too in depth because these things can be quite personal. And, don't want to share everything. But whatever you're comfortable with sharing, then please share.
Okay, so I'll kick it off. I'll just go ahead and get it. In my true Gemini fashion, I couldn't choose one, guys. I needed two because I live in a life of duality, and sometimes it sucks because it's just like, man, pick something, but I can't. So the two cards that I chose was the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. The reason, and they sort of like one of the same for me. So the King of Pentacles sort of symbolized having all of the material things and sitting and being very comfortable in those material things. So from the job to home ownership, all the things that I know are very materialistic. And after COVID, I low key don't even feel like it's real. Like like a lot of these things that we were told is real, it's just like, are they real? I still sort of want them know. So that's why I had the card. And then Queen of Wands, because she's living in her best mystical, magical life. The wand is still there because she is still a bad witchy lady. And can get business taken care of, but she's graceful. The sunflower being in her other hand is still like fruitful for life and everything that living in my passions is what I was trying to manifest. Plus, she has a little spirit guide animal there, and I just got a COVID puppy, and that's my spirit guide animal. The symbolism behind here. It's like, look, that's us. That's us sitting here. So both of the cards were very important for me with my homework, and I sat with them, and I truly just I mentioned earlier that meditating and just sitting in silence is something that doesn't come easy for me because my mind is always, and I'm always thinking about something. It could be like, oh, my puppy shots. Oh, I need to take the trash out. Did I lock the front door? It's always something to where my mind won't allow me to sit in peace. So this exercise actually helped me with that. I have to be very intentional with that and telling my mind to be still, be present. And if anything, is focus on the breathing and focus on the card, allowing my mind to then be quiet. So in doing so, allow just to truly release and allow myself to have it is something that this exercise sort of brought to mind forefront, something that I don't do as often as I should. It's just like release it and then allow myself to have it as the magical queen that I am. So that's how it went for me. I tried really hard. Some days it wasn't 10 minutes. It was like a quick look and out the door, but it still went fairly well. So that was my experience.
Thank you. Yeah, and sometimes it is like that, and when you are so pushed for time, it's easy to just say, "I'll do it another time." But even if all you can do is just stop for an instant and look, you're still making that effort to stop. So that's really cool. Does anybody else want to share anything about this exercise that they did?
Ooh, John, now we can see you, but we still can't hear you.
No worries, John. Technology is a beast. I will go while John, hopefully you can get your microphone because I can't wait to hear your insight. It's always so good every week. So I meditated on the Fool because I'm trying to manifest the joys that I used to have when I started the spiritual journey that I started earlier this year. I feel like things have gotten really monotonous is not the word that I want to use, but everything's the same and it feels like it's becoming work. So I wanted to manifest like the happiness and like the naive and like, look at how wonderful she looks. Just she's having a good time. That's what I wanted to manifest this week. So I knew that 10 minutes every day was probably not going to happen. So I put it right next to my front door. So before I left for work every morning, or when I was like every time I had to leave the house, I had to see it and I had to take a moment to pause and to say, okay, this is what you want to manifest. What are you actually doing to make this happen? So that is how I meditated on the Fool this week. And I think it's helping. I think it's helping.
I guess I'll go. I did the strength card. I've looked at that quite a bit in the past too, but I just think it's a good card whenever you feel like that's what you need is strength. And who doesn't need some strength during the pandemic? You know, I mean, it's gone on so long and there's so many things that I can't do. I don't have the strength of the friendships that I had before. I mean, I can't meet my friends. I mean, it's too hard right here where I am. Even though I'm vaccinated, I'm still immunocompromised. I have cancer, so I can't just meet anybody I want and talk to them. So I can't even meet my good friends. I can, talk to them, but some of them are very busy and can't even talk to me that much. They have families. And so anyway, this is kind of strength that, she is looking at the lion, but she's got the lion's mouth open and she's not afraid, as you can see. And she's taming the lion. The lion is letting her control him. So, so it's like taking control of a situation and not letting it overcome you, like a lion overcoming her. She's the one taking charge. So that's what I like.
I feel like we could all use some strength, honestly. I feel like maybe I should have done two like Rashana.
No, that was real.
Yay, John!
Oh, it works now?
Yay!
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was really I like that. I'm not always great with descriptive words, but I think that was really insightful. Mine for this part pretty much were the magician and the moon. I'm not sure. I believe, was this one I could choose from the whole arcana and the other one was the suits, correct? Or yeah, okay. So I kind of, the magician in the first place, it kind of represents the leopard. Well, for me, it's a kind of personal guide of mine that's been with me recently. Kind of showed up in a very unconventional way, but and it was one of my first actual experiences. But it just in general, like when I would do readings for myself throughout this week, it would come up, and also in a meeting with somebody else. So it was actually a really interesting source of just interest for me. And also like the signs I've been getting in my life currently, like essentially the magician for me means having all these like elements in your power. Like you see, you have all the suits here and it's kind of just showing that it's in control. You have the kind of this black sun behind it, but still this kind of invigorating energy that's like radiating out from it. And it kind of just feels like it's like the card that appears when you have all the power within your grasp and you can do things. And like, it's a card of action, I guess you could say. And it coincided a lot with a lot of messages that I've been getting lately. And just for me, that kind of just, it was nice encouragement. It's like a parallel, it's like another card that I like to reference a lot, which is a chariot, but not the one that I chose. but it's still, you know, the same kind of similar kinds of energy. The other card was the moon, which super trippy card if you look at it closely, just because of how it's one way, it looks like you're looking straight up and it's a regular scene of evergreen trees and stuff. But you see, if you look again, that the moon is kind of reversed and the trees themselves are like growing upwards. The leaves and branches, they're going kind of like in an inverse fraction to how they would be normally. And then if you look even closer, you look and see this bottom part where you realize it could not, they might not even be the things that you're supposed to focus on as the trees, because there's still this whole bush line down here. It doesn't really have a bottom. There's like, it's almost bottomless. It's weird. I mean, if you flip it upside down, it gets a bit more trippy. But, you know, for me, that represented the plane of like dreams, nightmares, fears, inspiration, like a very mercurial place where a lot of ideas go and are, and just it can be really cool when you're like kind of drifting in it, but also it can just be overwhelming by the sheer amount of just potential and ideas. And also just like getting lost in those thoughts, getting lost in thought, period, because it also does represent like fears and nightmares in a way, uncertainty, mystery, things, the unknown, essentially, which is, I mean, one of the more things that like humans are like, humans are naturally trained to fear, and like, oh, we all fear the dark for some reason, even though I like to say I like the night, and I'll take night walks, but if anything goes crack on the side, you know, I'm gone. Like it's as much as I want to say I am the night, and the one thing, yeah. So it's just in us to do that. But at the same time, it can be a very nice place when you learn how to navigate it and navigate that energy. So it's not something that we should always like. That fear is not something that should be an inhibitor, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's those two.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for sharing. That was amazing. So this week I thought we'd talk about spreads. Now, we've already done the hard work, or we've already started the hard work, because for me, the hard work is doing all of those things we've already been doing, getting to know the cards and all of that. And the spreads are easy enough. Even though, in my experience, when I've been teaching people before, they often get a bit worried about spreads. Like, they just, I don't know, there's something about them that seems to make people worry. But I just tell people that a spread is not something that's flashed out of the sky by some divine being. Every tarot spread has been designed by another person. That is all. You know, and designing tarot spreads can be easy if you have an understanding of what you're asking for. Sometimes that can be the hard part in designing a spread. It can be really deciding what you want that spread to say. And so with that said, I want to look a bit at spreads, just because I want to demystify them a little bit. Because a tarot spread is just you placing a card in a certain position because that means something. That is all it means. So I can design a spread and I'll lay this card in the north and I will say this card represents the present. You know, I could lay a card in the south and say this card represents the past. You know, as long as it makes sense to the person who's using that spread, that's really all we need from a spread, you know. So I wanted to demystify them a little bit. And also I wanted to use the spreads in a way, because I think throughout this workshop, we've seen that we've been using the tarot in pretty non-conventional ways, less as a divinatory tool in that we're reading for somebody else, and more really as a tool of self-discovery. And I wanted to kind of go on in that vein, because I feel once you've done this for yourself, it's easy to then take that knowledge of the cards because you've worked on it and you formed that relationship with them. It's then easy to apply that knowledge to when you're reading for somebody else. So one of the first things that we can do with our tarot cards is a daily pull. Now, this is just pulling one card from the tarot every day. Everybody's got time to do this. You can do it in the morning. It can just be an overview of your day. So you'll just give your deck a quick shuffle. And normally when I'm doing this kind of work, if I haven't got time to do any kind of meditation, I will just simply say aloud, you know, it can be something like, what will the day have in store for me? What do I need to know for today? And then I'll pull a card. And so there you go. We've got the Four of Wands. So this might tell me that today is a day to be aware of opportunities to build my passions and inspirations, a way to develop them, to keep an eye out and maybe be aware of my inspirations and passions today, because sometimes they're things that can be pushed to the side in the daily grind. So today I'm going to go out and I'm going to just kind of keep an open mind, and maybe anything that happens out of the ordinary, I might, you know, think, aha. So that's one really easy way everybody can use the tarot every day. And of course, it can be any question you want to ask it. And what that really does, it gets us into the habit of using the tarot every day, because I feel that is really important, especially if we're bringing it into our self-care rituals, which I feel is perhaps the most underrated aspect of the tarot, the way we can use them for self-care. And the truth is, there is no magic wand when it comes to learning the tarot. It takes effort and it takes time. It just does, unfortunately. As lovely as it would be to just kind of look through them and go, aha, and have divine inspiration straight away, it does take effort and time. And so doing a daily tarot pull, you're always kind of scaffolding your learning and understanding of the tarot. So every day when you're doing it, you might not be aware of how much you're developing your understanding of them, but it is happening, you know. And so I think when it comes to reading a spread, because I feel like this is where people kind of struggle the most, perhaps, it's how the cards relate to one another. So although we might have our spread, so for instance, if we have a past, present and future spread, okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, this card is the past, this card is the future, this card is the present. However, when it comes to tarot reading, what we really want to do is to use the cards in those different positions. So we explain them as singular events, but actually in our lives, nothing is really singular. Our past affects us in the present. You know, what we do now can affect our future. All of those things are interrelated. And so it's important when we're reading a spread or doing a spread, if it's for ourselves or for somebody else, it's really important that we kind of be able to see the bigger picture. So it's important we kind of explain each card in its position, as that means, but you know, we need to be able to see how they relate to one another in the bigger picture. And so, for example, what I would like everybody to do now is we're going to just do a little we're just going to do a little 2-card exercise, okay? And because I want to start really simple for anyone who is new. And also it's just a really good way of breaking it down. And this is also a good reading to do for yourself to fit in with your self-care. So just give your cards a good old shuffle. So this spread that I'm going to do, I do it with students. I do it for myself every so often. And I do it for people who perhaps come to me, because as a reader, the amount of people who come for a reading and they don't really have a question in mind, you know, that is most people, believe it or not. It's really weird because you think, you know, people come to a tarot reader with a specific question, but most people, I think it's perhaps the novelty of it. And so, you know, they don't really have a question. And so this is a good if you're ever in that situation where someone wants reading and they don't have a question, they say, oh, I don't know, which is super annoying as a reader, then this is a good one to do. So when you feel you are ready, I want you to just lay 2 cards down, face down, side by side. And I call this reading, it's almost like a progress reading, like a progress tracker. So the first card represents the starting point, the place where we started, where we stepped onto the path. And it can be started anything. It might be the place where you started your spiritual journey. It might be the place where you started in your career. So it's the starting point of whatever journey we're looking at. And then the next card is where you are now. Okay, so what tends to happen with this card, there's quite a few ways you can interpret it. So an easy way is, so if the second card is a higher number than the first card, you can say that progress has been made. However, then you begin to incorporate the individual card. So for example, in mine that I've just done, my first card was the 6 of Cups. And so that's the place I started. So I started in the place of, it's a pretty good starting point. There's always work to be done, but generally I've got some deep roots, a good anchorage. It's a good place to start. And then my next card, which was where I am now, the progress card, is the Daughter of Swords. So the Daughter is a higher card if you want to, assign numerical value to it. It's a higher card than the 6 of Cups. So I have made progress. However, it's the Daughter of Swords, which, as if you can remember from the last week's session, the daughter is immature thought. Yes, and so I have made progress. However, I have many lessons to learn from that progress, many mistakes, and mistakes are okay because the mistakes are how we learn. But there's a lot of work still to be done. And so it's a really good way of, so this spread is a really good way of kind of really breaking down how far we've come, what we've achieved. And it's a good way of seeing the bigger picture with only 2 cards. So does anybody else want to share the cards that they got?
I would love to, because I almost want your interpretation as the newbie, because I'm very much so a newbie to this. So my first card, which was my starting point, I got the 4 of Pentacles. And it's like I'm holding on to my balancing act for dear life. I'm literally holding on to that pentacle like, hey, I got them. I got all 4 of them, but I'm holding on to it. Very materialistic, maybe. Just trying to hold on to this balancing act that I've been putting on is what I've gotten from it, possibly. First card, so then, which was immature. I found it interesting because this one is less, or will be smaller than the Moon card. Correct. So this was immature to this one. And in this card, it's like, I guess currently I'm embracing the weird. I mean, it's 2 naked ladies celebrating in the moonlight. They're masked. There's like this grim spirit in the water. It's like very weird, possibly strange, walking on the weird wild side, but good, I suppose. So yeah, those were the 2 cards I got when I just pulled.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else want to share their 2 cards?
I can share mine. So I got my first card was the Inverted Lovers. So I kind of feel like, I don't know, since it's inverted, I feel like this is like not the end of a relationship, but something changing. It's no longer new, it's no longer fresh. And so that's kind of where I started. And then I got the reversed Knight of Swords, again, immature action. Not being as prepared as I could be for, I guess, the end of something. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of where I got. And then I believe the Knight of Swords is higher than the Lovers. So it appears that I have made progress throughout the end of whatever it might be. But I'm just not fully ready for the true end.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Does anybody else want to share before we move on?
I mean, I can go or try.
Yeah, please do.
So for what my first one, I got the Two of Pentacles. So that was kind of like balance, I guess, like holding these two forces, kind of like probably juggling some things, which is kind of, yeah, it's pretty accurate to kind of where I started, especially this year trying to figure out now, okay, I'm going to start doing tarot now. All right, I'm also going to start making my voice stuff seriously now. All right, I'm also probably going to have to look for an actual job a lot more seriously. Like, you know, also trying to do this other thing that I'm still not quite ready to like make a thing. So like juggling all these new ideas, but still probably like optimistic, I'd say optimistic about the future. It's only the Two of the Pentacles, so it's not necessary. It's still the beginning of the journey, which, you know, that's pretty much, you know, good for a first card, I think. For the second one, I got the Son of Cups, and honestly, yeah, like it represents, you know, immature action in a way, kind of in a more, well, in this sense, I didn't feel bad about it. It was like I felt like that action was kind of needed to kind of make myself move in a way. I found myself, meanwhile, like recently, I've been working a lot with past self things and like working that energy through. And it's in a way, it's like I've been calling for that kind of immature, emotional type, but also just more intuitive energy in. And so it's like interesting. I didn't expect it to come up. I usually have a harder time relating to the suits in general, just because they can be, I don't know, sometimes I feel like a bit too restricting, but also this is also simple, which I pride myself on being in certain ways. Like I'm kind of a simple man, you know, simple things. And sometimes simple action is all that's needed to move something forward instead of overthinking everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, that was definitely one of my aims with the workshop, is to demystify tarot. And I don't mean that in a kind of, I don't know, derogatory way, because at the same time, I also like the mystique of the tarot, because I feel like that's what draws everyone to it. However, you know, the mystery is there to be unraveled. So it's all good. It's all part of the journey. So I guess you can see just by doing that it's a really simple way of using the tarot quite regularly to kind of get an insight into your journey. Because the problem is, you know, and I keep saying it, life is a grind, you know, and I mean, we all have so much pressure on our life, work, family, trying to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve. And it's hard when you're in that to kind of, it's hard when you're in that kind of space to really give yourself a true perspective, because you're so busy. And so this spread is a good way of just taking time, just kind of saying, right, I just need to have a look. And yeah, you can use it for anything. So if you want to use it for your spiritual journey, perhaps if you want to use it as a tool to kind of manifest whatever it is you're trying to manifest in your life, it's a really good way to use the tarot. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about the past, present, and future spread, because I do that one a lot as well. That comes up a lot for people who come for a reading, and perhaps one of the lower tier readings, and they're not too sure. Perhaps they're just really interested. They're new to tarot and they're just interested. And the thing is, a lot of people kind of look down on the past, present, and future spread as perhaps being a tad simplistic. But again, if we look at it through the lens of being a tool of self-care, it's a really useful tool to looking into yourself. And it does so in a way that is kind of honest, but less, it's critical and honest, but it's not a painful way of exploring it. It's quite a gentle way of exploring, especially if you're a survivor of trauma, whatever that trauma might look like, and if you want to start kind of doing some work towards it, always with a professional, if then this can be a tool that you can use in a way that isn't going to be too harsh, and it's a really good tool for self-care. And it's the past, present, and future. So it's obviously 3 cards. The present goes in the middle, and then to the left you will have the past, and to the right you'll have the future. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it's a really important spread because we're always so focused on progress, on moving forward, of going forward, that we tend to kind of downplay the past. And especially if it's a traumatic past, we say, it's really traumatic, painful. I haven't dealt with that. However, I'm happy to just leave it in the past and move on. But then those kind of things can affect us in lots of little subtle ways. And even if it's not necessarily a past filled with trauma, even if you've had quite a settled life, everybody has kind of regrets, things they wish they could go back and revisit. Our pasts are, everybody has a dark past in some respect, even if it's only dark to themselves, and so it's a really good way of exploring that. But I wanted to talk about how we can kind of make it a little bit more as well. So if we add 2 more cards, we can really then explore our every aspect of ourselves. So we have the past, present, and future. And then if we take another card and put that at the bottom of the present card, and we take another card and put that at the top of the present card, so that then gives us a 5-card spread. And these 2 extra cards, so the one at the bottom is what I call the foundation card, and this links to the past card. And it links to the past card, but it's also a standalone card in that, yep, our past affects us quite clearly, and it can also contribute to the foundations. And when I talk about the foundation card, I mean the foundations of us as individuals. It might be family, it might be background, it's that kind of foundation. It's all those little things that kind of we start from. Does that make sense? And so if you have a really solid foundation, it gives you, it doesn't mean that your life's going to be all rosy and, hearts and flowers, but if you have a solid foundation, you have a solid base from which to grow. If your foundation's shaky, it's always going to be harder for you, and so this card really then allows you to explore your past in a way that we can look at our past but not be held prisoner by our past. Does that make sense? And then so the card at the top then is the headspace card, because we are our own worst enemies. I can remember when I used to kickbox and box competitively, and I used to go running. Now, running was always hard work for me. I used to love going to the gym, love doing pad work, love doing sparring, love doing all of that kind of stuff. But running was the worst. I hated it with a passion. But, it was a necessary part of my cardio training to get, fighting fit. And, my mind was a traitor on those runs. So I had several routes set out. Some were fast for like those long, steady runs. Some were short, but hard for those, short blasts. But on the longer ones, which I always hated because I am not built for long distance running, on those longer ones, I had a set route, but there were always several shortcuts. And as I was approaching those shortcuts, my mind would be saying, oh, Emma, if you just go down that alleyway, you'll be home in 5 minutes. Whereas if I had to carry on the rest of my run, it would take me another 20 minutes. And that pressure that is coming from my own mind to take this shortcut because I'm tired and I'm in pain, you know, you have to really fight to push past that. So our minds are tricksy. So this card represents our headspace. You know, it's not always negative, but most often there's the self-doubts, the self-sabotage. You know, we talked about that monkey mind earlier, that part of your mind that's always constantly talking to you and chattering to you. You know, it's all of those things. And by adding those two cards, we take our past, present, and future spread into a more well-rounded spread that kind of looks at every aspect of ourselves. And that spread is so important to use in, you know, in our self-care ritual. It might not be a spread that you use all the time, but it is certainly one that I recommend people do monthly if they can, as part of a regular tarot practice. Because for me, the cards, as you know, I do use them, I do read for people, but they are an integral part of my daily practice in many different ways. And I use, you know, everything that we've talked about today, I use all of those same methods in my own practice daily. So it's just really important to kind of build that relationship with the cards if you want to kind of be really meaningful when you do readings. And then I just wanted to touch on yes/no questions, because when I first started learning the tarot, these were the ones that I struggled with the most, because, you know, when a lot of people come and what the question they're asking are yes/no questions. But how do you interpret those with the cards? You know, there is no card that you can get where it's definitely yes and one that's definitely no. So we have to do a little bit of work in interpreting these yes/no cards. So when someone comes to me and they have a yes/no question, I generally tend to do a 3-card spread. At least at first, I might pull more if I need some more clarification, but I generally have a 3-card spread. So I take one card. The first card I take, I lay that at the top of the spread, and this is going to be my yes or no card. And then I have 2 other cards that I lay at the bottom, and they're kind of my extra information cards. And I want everybody to kind of have a go now. So I want you to have a question in mind. It can be really simple, a really fun, silly question. It doesn't have to be kind of, you know, a question of your soul or, you know. And then they lay them out. So 1 at the top and then 2 just underneath. So it's almost like a triangle shape. So the first card at the top is your yes/no. So just have a couple of minutes, turn them over when you're ready, ask yourself your question, and then first of all, I just want you to turn over the top card, and I want you to kind of use that card to give yourself an answer. And then if you find you're struggling or just you want some extra insight, then turn the 2 bottom ones over, okay?
Which 2 do I do after the first one?
Say that again, sorry.
After the first one's pulled, where do I get the other 2? From the top or from the bottom?
Wherever you feel like, you know, there's no hard and fast rules about these things. Wherever you feel.
Okay. Some people do like this. Do you do that, or you just take them from the deck?
No, when I'm just getting the cards, I tend to just shuffle them and then cut the deck, place the bottom on top of the top. That's how I do it. Everyone has their own little rituals that they kind of come up with, which is truly fascinating anyway. But yeah, there's no hard and fast rules.
I didn't do this.
Roshana, I love your facial expression.
Because I be like reading, I'll be like, so what does this mean? And because I pull out my little book, guys, such a newbie. So
yeah, no, don't. That's what they're there for, you know.
I'm like, okay, so I'm reading. Okay, so I pulled the 5 of Swords. I don't know if we were sharing, but it's just like,
what was your question, if you don't mind me asking?
So I had an interview this week, and it was just like, am I a finalist? And I got this card.
Okay, what is it? Can you just say?
The 5 of Swords. So
okay. So how do you have an initial yes/no answer? Did you have a gut feeling when you turned it over?
I did because I was looking at the people in the back. I was like, oh, maybe not. But it's just like maybe not. But then I read the illustrator's intention behind the card, and it's just like, if you want to go for this fight, it's yours. But am I ready to fight for it? You know, and it's just like, ooh, you know.
Mhm. So if you did you
Yes,
turn
no.
the other 2 cards over?
No, I didn't.
So turn those over now, and then just have a couple of minutes and see if they help the clarification. We'll come back to you. Anybody else want to share their first card, their answer card, so to speak?
I keep getting inverted cards. I got
Can I just ask, what was your question?
Oh, my question was, is my husband coming home from deployment soon? And so I got the King of Pentacles reversed. And so I'm hopping into my notes. Like overindulgence. And I'm thinking like it's the end of overindulgence. And so my initial thought is no.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do the same thing as Roshana and just kind of turn over your other 2 cards and see if they help kind of give any insight into the answer, make it a little bit more clearer. And we'll go to somebody else. Somebody else want to share their question and their first card?
I guess I can go. Mine was essentially like, is this essentially this event, is it important that I pay attention to it? Or is it just something that I should just, I mean, like, it's not that big a deal, move on to the next job. And I got the Wheel of Fate reversed.
Mm-hmm.
So the Wheel of Fate in general, whenever it shows up, I guess it's like, well, I kind of feel like my deck's messing with me a bit, just because it's like to say, well, I don't know, because the Wheel of Fate it's always really turning. It's no, just the fact that the card comes up is just kind of mindful that, well, yes, in the way that it's a wheel of fate. Like, not that I necessarily have like thoughts on fate one way or the other, but the card itself coming up can be, and the sun is up, so it kind of sets it's as opposed to the other side, the right side up, where the moon is up and it's more darkness. The sun is more emphasized on this side, and it kind of just says, well, yeah, in a way, because I identify it as like things that show up like that, maybe as a pith point, as something that could probably change things if I were to take action, or just or rather, it's like something I can't avoid, but I can either choose to do something. I can either choose to do something half-assed or like do it. And so when I turned over the other 2, I got the Son of Wands, which was immature action, which is in a way like just do it, but maybe not without the, like, I should probably, in a way, it's kind of in a way a warning about against immature thought, like, immature action in a way. Like, diving in is great, but also it's important to remember like actual barriers that still exist, and like just being mindful of ways to move more strategically, as a snake actually might, to get to something, to coil its way up a wand like this to reach the point up here, which kind of emphasizes like the concentration of that power. And the other card I got to which is why it's like it's weird. It's the Four of Wands reversed. So it's honestly, both ways, they're pretty similar. So it can be, I feel like it's either way, something you're going to see, something you're going to get a window into some kind of potential future, regardless of what you choose to do, in a way. Because again, it seems like I see the Wheel of Fate as kind of like overarching stuff is going to happen, but it's just really how I react to it and how I choose to view it, in a way, because this also represents a viewpoint. Like, a very I believe there's another card that coincides with this one but this one actually represents a wider view. So really it's going to be interesting regardless. I kind of understand it, but it's hard to put into words. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Margaret, do you want to share your question and your first card?
Well, the problem is after I got my first card, I looked at my others and they were not shuffled well at all. Because I got 2 wands and then I looked at the next and they were all wands. So I had not separated the wands. So I don't think that's very truthful. The cards weren't look good. They looked like they were all clumped together, suits. So I don't know if they were or not, but the first card I got could be positive by itself. Because I asked if my car's going to get fixed because the battery's dead and I want to make sure I can run it. And I got the Knight of Swords. And to me, that might be swift action. I mean, a knight's pretty important, not a page, but it's not a king though. So I don't know. And then I tried it again, and everything I got was reversed. So I don't. And then they fell on the floor, and they were reversed, of course, because they fell down. I don't think they were going to be reversed. So if I take the first card, that could be a yes. I think.
Okay.
I think to me it could be.
Awesome, thank you. So Roshana, coming back to you, did the 2 other cards kind of help? Did they shed any light?
I want to say it's yes, but it's going to be just it was the Magician and the Knight of Swords. So it seems like it's going to be a magical, swift yes. I'm just going to go with yes. That's what I got.
Yep, no, that's good. I like it. I like your commitment to your answer. And Leah, what about you? Did the 2 other cards reveal any insight?
Yes. So I got the Queen of Pentacles reversed, which for me is, oh my goodness, I take notes and then I don't on them. Wait.
It's a nightmare trying to read through your notes on the spot, isn't it?
It's really hard. So Queen of Wands, I'm looking at this card, like abundance. And for me, I feel like inverted there, it's a time to be more mindful with the money that I have and more mindful with the things that I'm doing. And then I also got the King of Swords reversed, which is, I feel like kind of let me turn it up, which is kind of like a silent power and inner strength and just like bringing everything together and allowing myself to be strong in the moment. And I think that my answer is the same. I think it's no.
Yeah. And, it's a really good exercise in how, if we're not sure, we can just pull some other cards to seek clarification, and really it's just a good way of using the tarot. Yes and no questions can be difficult, but they also can have, it's kind of twofold. They teach us to trust our gut and to go with our gut because we don't as creatures. I don't know why, we just don't. I think we've been conditioned to kind of use logic all the time, that we kind of ignore our gut feeling and that, our intuition. So it's a really good exercise to develop that. But as tarot readers, you're going to get asked yes and no questions quite a lot. So my question was, I'm working for a promotion at work. At the moment, I'm a coordinator, so I teach lessons. I'm a teacher, but I'm wanting to take on an extra role as the Senko, which is this. I work in an autistic school, so it's like going in that direction. So I wanted to know, will I get my promotion? It's months down the line, but I want to know if it's worth putting in all this hard work for. So I got the Chariot. And the Chariot is about, so for me, it's a yes. And the thing with the tarot is, it's not so much as telling the future, this is the path you're on, and this is the outcome if you follow. So if I can kind of control and guide all of those different parts of myself and channel them into that one direction, into that one focus. And the other cards I got, which were the Father of Swords and the Mother of Pentacles. So that's mature action and mature thought. If I'm mature in my actions and mature in my thoughts, then yes, I will achieve my goal. So, you know, it's just a really quick way. You can go in depth as you want to with these yes and no questions. You can have a whole reading. You know, you could easily do an hour reading for someone based on those yes and no questions. And you pull cards, you know, you keep pulling cards to kind of delve deeper. And really, that's about it. I just wanted to show you with these, with the spreads that we've looked at today, how we can use the tarot daily, weekly, monthly in our own lives, but also how we can expand on those spreads and really, you know, because the thing is, and I think most of us will feel the same, especially with those ones that we've drawn today, you could ask further questions based on the answers that you get. So it's almost like going down the rabbit hole. So thank you so much for joining me for these past 3 weeks. If you've got any questions, please ask away.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, Emma, you've been great. I'm going to slide a quick
Thank you.
question in. What does reverse mean, guys? Everybody keeps talking about. I get that it means upside down, but is there symbolism when the card shows upside down?
Well, it's not always necessarily the opposite, because I think there's a bit of a, I don't know, a thing where people just tend to say, oh, well, it's the opposite of that particular meaning. And it's not often the case. It can mean that, you know, and again, you have to like look at it in relation to the spread, but it can mean that something unexpected is going to happen. So, for example, if you were to have a card that right way up might represent good health, and then you get a card, that same card reversed, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to fall ill. It might be that, you know, you do some actions that compromise your health, or it might, you know, so it's not necessarily you're going to be ill, but it might be, you know, someone else close to you might be ill, or the actions that you're doing might not affect your physical health, but they might affect your mental health. It's just kind of, it can be interpreted in many different ways, but it's not necessarily just the opposite of what, you know, it means. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for this. Does anybody else have a question? I know we're at time. I don't want to hold anybody else up. Margaret, John, Leah. Alrighty. Thank you. Oh, go right ahead.
Okay, real quick. I heard that some cups are more tend to put, I mean, some cards, I said it, tend to be more yes, like aces, like Ace of Cups. I've heard that that's a real prominent yes card.
Yay! The aces could definitely be interpreted as yes cards, because they are positive cards. They're cards of adventure. They're cards of possibility. They're the beginning of the journey. So if not an outright yes, then definitely something's going to happen. And generally, it's, you know, the aces are generally tend to have a good feeling about them. So yeah, they're definitely positive cards.
For if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So like when you pull multiple of the family cards in the suits, well, for us, for the family cards and the knights and all things like that. Like if you were to pull like the Knight of Swords and Knight of Wands, or the Queen of Pentacles, and that, like, do you interpret that all as in this, like, answering the same question, or is it maybe pointing to different questions that the person didn't ask? Because I mean, they generally rule different areas, but I mean, you know, everything is everything, so there's nothing.
Yeah. It kind of depends. So if I'm doing a set spread, so if someone comes to me and they want a 10 card spread, and I might decide that, say, the Celtic Cross, for example, is the perfect 10 card spread. So I will turn over all the cards, and I will interpret each of the cards in their individual spaces. So for example, if there's a past and a future card, I'll interpret those in terms of the past and the future. And then I draw, you know, I kind of pull them together as a whole. So if there are patterns, so if for example, I notice that someone's pulled a lot of major arcana cards in the spread, then it might be that actually those big questions, those big areas of life, those important archetypes, are something that they need to focus on right now. So if, for example, if someone pulled a lot of knights, so if they in a reading, in a spread, it might be that actually they need to think about they need to take some time on kind of developing mature actions in response to whatever stimulus, you know. So it's about kind of using the message of the overall reading, but also noticing those patterns to add extra emphasis and detail. So for example, if someone came to me and their question was, you know, I'm going for a promotion at work, I'm going for this job, blah, 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 and they do a 10 card reading and I notice that they're getting all of the knights, for example, then I might say your promotion is possible. However, you know, right now you've got this immature action and you need to be thinking about how you can transform the immature action into the mature action by, you know, maturely thinking, you know, going through the mature thought process.
Right.
So do you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
how I might interpret it if I see a lot of one type of card.
Yeah, okay. That does make a lot more sense. It just because it starts to get like, oh, okay, shit, fuck. Like, because I'm already, the court cards can be a bit, you know. Oh, sorry. Yeah, wow.
I have a potty mouth, don't worry.
Yeah, it just starts to get overwhelming sometimes. So yeah, thank you for.
Yeah, and it
clarifying
does, you know. And so actually it's a really good question, because when we do a reading, we're not just reading, you know, if you were to go to a tarot reader and you had, say, a 3-card spread and it was past, present, and future, and they turned the cards over and said, in your past it was hard, in your future it's going to be better, and right now you're doing that work, and that was my reading, I might be a bit pissed off, you know. So using all of those, you know, looking at the patterns in a spread, it's all information, and a seasoned tarot reader will use all of those different patterns and to help kind of divine meaning, you know. So it's a really good question, so thanks for asking it.
Yeah, thanks for answering.
All right, everyone, this is the end of our beginner tarot workshop, but hopefully Emma will come back and share more tarot information with us in the future. Yeah, I really enjoyed this workshop. I want to thank you so much, Emma. You have been just a fountain of knowledge. I have learned so much. And I can't wait to see what we do next.
And everybody will have these recordings, so we will share them with you to refer back to for your just repertoire, not living knowledge. So thank you, Margaret, Ivory, and John, for being in this space and being so amazing.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was a great way to go back through, and like I felt a lot more familiar with things, just getting used to the imagery of the cards more, like being able to, like I heard the 4 of Cups being brought up and I was able to like recognize which one of my cards that was and like connect to it a bit more faster. So it's like, it's cool. It was very advantageous. Learned a lot of new different spreads today that I will try to use.
Wonderful. Well, everyone be well, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow at Emma's plant workshop.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.